Theological pipe.
I've been expecting you.
Bingo! Yahtzee!
There is a God, and
I speak German.
I'm not him.
GOAT, or greatest of all time. You've seen that people will throw that around for who's the greatest of all time in terms of basketball, and that argument nowadays comes down to LeBron James and Michael Jordan. For me, there's no comparison. It's Michael Jordan. He's the greatest of all time. He's one of the greatest competitors of all time, and I think you can make an argument that in all sports, he's got to be considered one of the greatest of all times. And I think that after last night with the Super Bowl, Tom Brady, at least in terms of football, I don't think there's very many arguments to be made that anyone is better than him. Tom Brady is the greatest of all time, and that's coming from someone who doesn't like Tom Brady. Or let me change that. Up until this year, was not a Tom Brady fan. Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, when he was with the Patriots, came up, people called it's the Patriot way. Well, I think it's safe to change that now after last night. It's the Tom Brady way. The Patriots didn't even make the playoffs, and Tom Brady went from a perennial playoff team and a Super Bowl team. Tom Brady has been to the Super Bowl 10 times, and he's won 7. And that was all with New England until last night. And he jumped from the New England Patriots to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who had won 5 games, and 7 games the previous 3 seasons. He goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They win 11 games and win the Super Bowl. So for me, again, I know people will say, well, what about Joe Montana? What about Jim Brown? They're great players. They're all-time players. But for me, Tom Brady is the greatest of all time when it comes to football players. You've heard the debate too, and I'll just give you a couple more GOATs real quick. In basketball, the big debate is LeBron James versus Michael Jordan. Again, to me, there's no debate in that one. It's Michael Jordan, the greatest competitor. And again, I didn't like him either. And I'll tell you where my dislike of Michael Jordan came from. Loved watching him play. Again, greatest competitor I've ever seen on the basketball court. Wanted to win worse than anybody. The 2 things that I didn't like about Jordan is, number one, he complained about every single call that went against him, and he got every call. And I just don't like that. I don't like when the refs give superstar treatment to superstars. I like just, if it's a foul, it's a foul, and it shouldn't make a difference if it's the 10th man off the bench or it's Michael Jordan. So I didn't like his constant whining and complaining. And I also didn't like, there was an interview, and I think it was Ahmad Rashad, but it may have been somebody else, but they were talking about Jordan's competitiveness. And again, I'm all for that in sports. You're competitive. You want to beat your opponent really, really bad, and I get that. And I don't like when opponents are like friendly. You want to beat them; they're the enemy, so to speak. But they were talking to Jordan, or talking about Jordan, and made the statement and made it as if it was a good thing. Talking about his competitiveness, they said that Jordan doesn't even let his kids beat him in checkers. The kid, I think, was 4 at the time, 5 at the time. Really? You're that competitive that you don't let your 5-year-old son beat you in checkers? And I'm sorry, that's psychotic. So I just didn't like the adulation he got, which is deserved, and I didn't like the whining that he had, which maybe that's part of his competitiveness. But again, for me, there's no debate. Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time, just like Tom Brady is the greatest football player of all time. We'll go hockey. It's Wayne Gretzky, and again, I don't think there's much debate about that either. Wayne Gretzky is so good that if you took every goal that he scored away from his point total, they get points for goals and assists in hockey. If you took away every single goal that Wayne Gretzky scored, he would still be the all-time NHL scoring leader because of the number of assists he had. That's how amazing he is. I think, again, he's one of those ones that I think is untouchable. And for baseball, I think that's a little bit harder. We've talked about this. I talked about Willie Mays in a podcast, I don't know, a couple months ago. And so for me, he's one of the greatest of all time, just simply because of the stories about him being able to run and hit and field and play defense and hit for power and hit for average. He was just an all-around five-tool player. But I mean, if you want to say Babe Ruth, if you want to say Hank Aaron, which I think Hank Aaron's probably way up there, those are three good ones. Mickey Mantle, not Carlton Fisk, Stan Musial, or you can list a bunch of guys in baseball. But again, for me, if you're going to say who's the greatest of all time, and current day, you can put like Mike Trout. He's going to be one of the guys that are in the conversation when he retires. But for baseball, I'll say Mickey Mantle with an asterisk. I think that one's a little bit more debatable and fun to do. I think arguments like this are fun to talk about who's the greatest of all time in sports. But again, for me, Tom Brady solidified himself last night at the Super Bowl with winning another Super Bowl. Again, to go from the Patriots to a team that had won 5 games in 7 games, and to vault him into the playoffs and to win the Super Bowl at 43 years old, winning his 7th Super Bowl after he's been to 10 Super Bowls. Again, make arguments for Joe Montana. Make an argument for Jim Brown, Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith. I don't care who Tom Brady, I think, has them all beat, because the goal is to win championships, and he wins championships. And so, those are the major sports that I like. I mean, we could talk about other ones, tennis players and golfers and stuff like that, but that's something to think about another time. But what a performance. I think the Super Bowl, other than the fact that we watched Tom Brady win another Super Bowl, it was sort of boring. It was a shame that a couple plays that Mahomes made were incredible, and they wound up to be incomplete passes. But yeah, I would rather have a better game. But again, props to Brady, the greatest of all time in football. Again, the Super Bowl, other than that, was boring. The commercials were not good. There were a couple okay ones, but the commercials weren't good. Halftime was, I don't even know what it was. The national anthem, no. I mean, it was nice, but I'm more of an old school traditional, just sing the song. I don't need vocal flourishes. I don't need people to do different spins on it. Just sing the song. But yeah, other than just Brady winning it, the Super Bowl, again, was kind of forgettable for me. But again, he's the greatest of all time. So for GOATs, I got football, it's Brady. Basketball, it's Michael Jordan. Hockey, it's Wayne Gretzky. And again, on those three, I don't think I'm wrong on any of those. And I'm pretty solid, and I'll make an argument for all three of those. I'm pretty solid on those. Again, baseball, I go with Willie Mays just because I have a spot in my heart for Willie Mays. But if you want to say Hank Aaron, yes. If you want to say, somebody else that's one of the all-time greats, that's cool too. But again, Brady, what a performance. So, greatest of all times, the GOATs, that's my list. If you agree or disagree, hey, yell at me through the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, put it in the comments or whatever. Let me know. One other thing, and switching gears totally to something totally different. Free Britney. There's a documentary on Hulu, and I'm not a Britney Spears fan. I've been doing some podcasts with where I review the top 500 albums of all time in Rolling Stone, and none of Britney Spears' albums are on that list, nor should they be. Not a Britney Spears fan, not a teeny bop pop music fan like hers. But there's a documentary on Hulu. The New York Times did it, which I take with a grain of salt because I'm not a big fan of the New York Times. And if you've kept up with what's going on in their newsroom, and they're firing people for ridiculous reasons, and they don't tell the truth even though they're supposed to be arbiters of truth. But they did a documentary on Britney Spears and the conservatorship that her parents have over her. And when I go into those documentaries like that, especially because Britney Spears wasn't interviewed and wasn't a part of it, and then Jamie Spears and her mom and her sister and other people weren't a part of it, but other people were part of it, and they kind of went through her career and her meltdowns and the paparazzi and the conservatorship that now her parents basically control everything about her life, who she can hang out with, her concerts, her money, her estate, that kind of stuff. If half of it was true, if 30% of it was true, man, she's had a rough life. And, again, pray for her, watch it and see what you think. Again, I like music documentaries. I like music. Like I said, I do the Rolling Stone album reviews. I'm going to do another one here probably in a day or two with Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life. But man, Britney's she needs some help, and so if you're a Britney Spears fan, or even if you're not, watch that documentary. I think the Free Britney movement, man, they have some they make some good points, and what a shame, because again, whether you like that type of music or not, you can't deny that she's talented, and you can't deny, talented, and I'll put talented in quotes. But a lot of stuff that she's gone through, it's just not her fault, and what a shame. So don't know why I was thinking of that. I was just got done watching the Super Bowl yesterday, and then late last night, and then tonight I finished the documentary on Britney Spears and was just like, man, what a shame. That fame just swallows people whole sometimes, and money really makes people do some horrible things. So since this is Theological Pipe, pray for Britney Spears, and the love of money is the root of all evil, and it makes people do some horrible things. So maybe that's your Theological Pipe moment. But other than that, greatest of all times and Britney Spears, that's what this podcast is about. So again, probably tomorrow or the next day I'll do the album review and talk about other things. I would say, on another side note, real brief, pray for the country again, because they're going to start the impeachment again of Donald Trump. I think I think politics is a clown show, and I think they're just doing it for politics. Both sides, they're just trying to get votes and position themselves for more elections, and I just think it's a clown show. So I pray that again, truth comes out. Let's pray. Let the truth be revealed, whatever it is. And again, I trust that God's in control. So, but you do need to pray for the country, because too many people are going to hyperbolize it, and it can cause some real heartache and pain and anger, and I just don't want to see any more riots. I don't want to see any more division. I want to see us come together. So be praying for the country as well. So pray for Britney, pray for the country, and think about the greatest of all time. Of course, the greatest of all time is Jesus, but you get the point. We're just talking sports, which again, I've talked about sports and music being gifts from God, and thank God for them, that they can distract us and help us to kind of get our minds off of things. So put that in your Theological Pipe and smoke it, and we'll see you next time.
Well, bye.